Good morning, everybody. Happy FriYAY to you all. Welcome to the Meta Cafe, where grab your cup of coffee or tea, sit back, and let's chat about the astrology, not only for today, but for the weekend. I can't believe it's the weekend already, but yesterday I was telling a friend that I almost felt like yesterday was Friday. Like I was already in anticipation of, the slower pace of the weekend. Kind of funny because it was like I just kept thinking, "Oh, yeah, today's Friday." But then I'd go, "No, it's not Friday. It's not Friday yet." So today it's Friday, finally. Yay, yay, yay. You'll also notice it's back to Blue Fridays. For those of you who are new, you may not realize I'm a huge football fan. I love the game. I love my team, the Seahawks. And it's back to Fridays and dressing up in blue. They actually are playing a game tonight, which is always weird in the preseason. But that is one of my favorite things to do in the fall we look forward to the games and to family get-togethers to celebrate the games. Whether they win or lose, it doesn't matter to us. It's just about the camaraderie and getting togethers. Good morning, Miss Debbie. She knows exactly what I mean because Debbie's a huge Patriots fan. She's got the whole football thing going on too. And the only time we are at odds is when the Pats and the Seahawks play together. But we're not even at odds then. It's more fun. So welcome to the Meta Cafe. I invite you all to sit back and enjoy maybe a few minutes of conversation of the starry kind. We are back to maybe clearer skies. I actually got to go outside last night. I saw stars, not just the moon. The winds had changed and blown out a good chunk of the smoke and haze that had been in our night sky, in our day and night skies for the last few days. Actually, the last couple of weeks, now that I think about it. So it was kind of nice to get a look at the stars, to be able to see Mars out there, to be able to see a moon that wasn't bright red and giving me chills because of its, weird look. It just looked normal. Yes, indeed. Now the stars were still a little faint because there still is smoke in the air, but just not the degree that it was. So hallelujah for a change in the weather, filtering out some of that gooey, icky stuff in the sky from us, but we can still smell it. That's what's weird. You can still smell it. And I know there's not like beach fires or people burning in their fireplaces because there's a burn ban on. So, and it's not cold enough to really burn, in your house. So I know that the smell I'm smelling is still, residual left over from the fires. So let's just see the winds blowing in some cool Pacific air and some rain perhaps, and helping the firefighters get an upper hand on the fires, both California, Oregon, Washington, Canada, and anywhere else. I think Montana and Idaho even had some things going on. Good morning, Tina. Thank you very much. Asa, good morning to you too. And Debbie, of course, I already said good morning to you, but good morning again. Debbie, don't start with me, girl. Don't start with me. She said, and we know how that goes. We always see what happens on those games. Well, anyway, today we are going to be talking about not only what's happening today, Friday, but Saturday and Sunday. And Sunday is our full moon. I want to take a look at something that has been building up, building up in the astrological landscape, and that is a grand Earth trine. We spoke about a grand trine, but it was in water back in June and July. And I think it was actually June. And now it has shifted into a very different focus. And the ramifications of that are earth-shaking, earth-shattering, perhaps. So we have some interesting energies lining up for us for the weekend. Tina says, I'm in LA, drove by a Target, and the bushes were on fire. Holy cow. Uranus moving back toward Aries. Yeah, but also there's still, the residual healing energy of fire, the immolation still in play. We have 5 bodies still in fire, while we now have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in Earth. So we're shifting, but there's still quite a bit of air energy, and air sort of fans those fires, and just the movement of air and that type of thing. Yes, Debbie, this is much better. This is much better. This is what Debbie just said. Go Seahawks. We just have this thing, right? The Patriots, a powerful team. Love them. They're a pretty powerful team. Obviously they keep winning Super Bowls after Super Bowls. And so they have a really good track record. They play the Seahawks and inevitably, we lose. Even in the Super Bowl that we could have won against the Patriots, we blew it in the last play. Anyway, so Debbie and I have this fun thing that goes back and forth about the Patriots and the Seahawks. So anyway, off the football, I know we've got mostly women here who are probably not as interested in football as we are, but I can't help myself. It's just this time of year is just so much fun. I mean, there's Halloween, there's, harvest, there's apples, there's all the wonderful fall scents, the cinnamons, the pumpkins and the vanillas. And oh man, this whole season just, I know we're still in summer. Sorry, my bad. We're still in summer, but I just get really excited thinking about fall. I can't help myself. I just can't help myself. And of course, in the Northwest here, we kind of get fall early. Like right now, trees are already turning colors. And we can tell it's cooling down. The nights are longer. It used to be at 6 a.m. I was up and the sun was already in my face. And now at 6 a.m., it's still sort of, dawnish looking. So we definitely notice that the seasons are changing and that fall is imminent. And we like it that way. Okay, so let's get back to what's going on here. So when we look at, let's see, what chart am I looking at right now? So today, here we are with the moon in Aquarius. And Aquarius is the sign that is ruled by Uranus. Uranus is one of the planets involved in the grand Earth trine. And it is the probably impetus to a lot of the earth-shaking things that are going on. And earth-shaking literally because, what was it, an 8.2 in Indonesia this week, a 7.3 in Venezuela, a 6.2 off the coast of Oregon, and I'm sure there have been others that I just haven't tuned into. As well, we see some earth-shaking things coming up through the news in our country, at least the US, about revelations and people going to jail and all kind of being traced back to the president and all of what that means. Who knows? But I would imagine that we are still going to see some fallout from that. So everything is shaking up around us. A giant hurricane headed, straight at Hawaii and then turning at the last minute. And so sparing them a direct hit, but they're still dealing with that. So major things going on out there in the horizon. Today, our moon goes void of course at 9:38 p.m. So literally all day long today, we have the moon in Aquarius. It changes this evening to its last final aspect that it's going to make and is in void until 10:32 p.m. Saturday night. So a very much 24-hour, 25-hour long void of course moon. Of course, on a weekend, it's okay. The void of course on a weekend or on a Saturday makes me feel better than one on a Monday, right? Where Saturday at least is a day where we can relax more. Maybe we can, do things more around the home front, maybe get some shopping done. There isn't any major business to be had or to be done, hopefully, that the void of course moon might interfere with. And of course, now that means that the Saturday evening, the moon will be moving out of Aquarius and into Pisces in preparation for its fullness, which comes at 4:56 a.m. on Sunday morning for us here in the West Coast and 7:56 a.m. for you all on the East Coast. So the full moon happens early Sunday morning and we get to release, we get to have something revealed, we get to bring something to a completion, and we are literally able to see our way perhaps to freedom. Or are we going to choose to stay victims? I want to share something, and this is funny, right? This is just me observing my life. In the mornings is when I generally prepare for the morning show. And I get up at 6 a.m. I get dressed, I make my bed, I get my room ready, get the thing ready for, the broadcast. Then I have to go, do my hair, do my makeup, etc. And, lately I've been jam packing the morning with so much information because there's just really literally so much I want to share. So I found myself this morning sort of feeling like I was in resistance to putting on my makeup this morning. I was like, I don't want to put on my mascara. It takes too long. I have these little fine eyelashes, right? They're blonde. You can't see them. If I don't wear mascara, I don't look like I have any. So I have to do this. And so I'm cracking up at myself as I'm in resistance to doing what I want to do, right? What I want to do is put my mascara on and look good because I'm on camera. But I'm also in resistance because I don't want to take the time it takes to put my mascara on. And I just started busting up at myself because how many times in our lives, I mean, that's just so minuscule. That's why I said this was just like this minor little aha. How many times do we find ourselves in the midst of having made a decision that we're going to do something, but then we only half-heartedly commit to it and find ourselves in resistance to it, like kicking and screaming all the way? Like I'm sitting there putting this on and going, oh God, can't this go any faster? I need to hurry up and get back to my desk. And literally I could choose a different path. I could choose not to put makeup on. That is my choice. So not backing my choice, and literally almost just this little funny little thing putting me into almost a victim mode, right? I'm the victim of having to, blonde eyelashes and having to put on mascara, taking time away from what I want to be doing, which is sitting here at my desk preparing for this morning broadcast. So it was just, to me, this funny little teeny weeny thing that I caught myself in the midst of. And this is the real beauty of doing the work that you and I are doing together here every morning, is that the more we do this, then the more we notice. Then the big things sometimes are the hardest things to notice because we're too blinded by what's going on. So sometimes those little things I got to see this morning, this little piece of me that still becomes victimized by my own choices. So I wanted to bring that up because the moon, when it's full, is going to be sitting at the gate 55 in human design, or in the gene key 55, whose lowest expression is victimization. And the highest expression of it is freedom. So is the gift. The gift and the city are the same at the full moon. So the moon and the earth are both sitting there at gate 55, really emphasizing for us to look deeper within and see where it is that we've been victims. Where have we succumbed? Where are we continually, bringing up that victim energy in our lives? Because every time you give up on yourself, every time you begin to complain about something that you have to do, i.e. putting on your dang mascara, you're probably leaning toward the victim side of things, right? A victim side of things, even though you've chosen the path ahead. Now, also, there are times when it feels like we haven't been able to make the choice that, in a matter of a divorce. Sorry, I forgot to turn my phone on silent. That in matters of divorce, or what the heck? Oh, because I'm going the wrong way. Or where, things are seemingly out of our control, losing a job perhaps, or a divorce situation, or a breakup of a relationship, or having to, have not enough money maybe to pay your bills. These situations sometimes feel like they're out of our control, which then makes us even more likely to feel like victims. And I'm inviting you with this full moon to take a look at that. Are you really a victim? In every situation, every one, right? If I'm willing to look at my little mascara episode, then I also have to be willing to look at the bigger ones that go on in the background of my life. And it is by noticing the small that I can also get a handle on the big. By addressing the big, I can come to terms and bring this down to bite-sized little pieces, right? I can look at that. I can work with this energy. Sometimes it's just that awareness of what's going on. Right. I also had another stellar awareness yesterday. Now, actually, this has been in the works. And I realized that I half-heartedly commit to things all the time. All the time. Like, for instance, I moved here into this house a year ago in June. And I was so excited to move here because it was beautiful, light walls. It was airy. It was smaller than I wanted, but I loved the place, right? And it was on Samish Island where I wanted to be. And there's not always very many places to live here on the island, or available places to live on the island. It was seemingly perfect. But then I found myself, and I did not discover this until just recently, that all through this year, I've only half-heartedly been here in this house. And there's a reason why. I mean, certainly I can track it back to the fact that, well, I was trying to buy a house and not rent a house. So I ended up renting only in the short term. And so for the time being, I was only half-heartedly here. But even the act of doing that, even though I know that at some point in the future, there was possibility I was going to have to move again because I was going to buy, I only half-heartedly committed to being here in this moment. So every day that I'm here, every moment that I was here, I was only half engaged with my environment. Until one day I walked around and I'm looking around and I'm going, I really love it here. Why have I not been committed to being here? And then I started looking at what that means for me through other areas of my life. What am I only half-heartedly committed to? What did I commit to with my words? What did I commit to with my deeds? What actions did I, take, or decisions did I make? And then afterwards, I'm only like, I'm not really there. And last week, the sun was sitting at gate 29, which is the gate of half-hearted commitment. Saying yes to the wrong things. So we have this issue of, maybe saying yes to the wrong things. And when we do, that creates this sort of toxic ideal or this toxic atmosphere of only half-hearted commitment. But on the other hand, when there are things that you do commit to, you have the choice whether to commit to it fully or only half-heartedly. So we have these kind of things that are, right in our faces right now. Is having committed, then am I fully committed and I'm going to see it through? Or the other decision, the other choice is to get back out of it. I mean, that comes with its own issues, right? Because we are conditioned that you got to stay from start. If you start something, you have to finish it. That's conditioning. Many of you are designed to start something and finish it, but a lot of you aren't, right? And yet you feel bad about yourself, or other people think you're flaky, or your fear is that people are going to think you're flaky if you don't see something through from start to finish. But I'm here to tell you that half-hearted commitment to something is far worse than either being fully committed or recognizing you made the error and backing back out. Right? Either way, you need full commitment. And it was that half-heartedness that I was thinking about this morning, because I realized that out of those half-hearted decisions, out of those decisions I've made, when I only half-heartedly commit to it, then it's easy to become the victim of that decision. I hope that's making sense to everybody. Asa saying, so me. I think it's so all of us, but thank you for sharing that. Gail, this self-awareness information is so freaking amazing. I'm so glad to hear this isn't a crazy thing I deal with too. Gail, what's funny about that is there are times that I think I'm crazy because I do this. And, funny thing, I was talking to a friend yesterday whose, boyfriend basically shut her down in the process of this intense scrutiny that she goes through. And it was, the possible foundation for a breakup, which, makes me sad for her. But also I get it, right? I get it that some people aren't prepared to really do that deep dive. And maybe you're one of them, and that's okay. But if you do the deep dive, if you're willing, the results are amazing. It's amazing. And you begin to be able to really be responsible for yourself, for your decisions. I had the opportunity then this morning to fully commit to putting on my dang mascara, and then to fully commit to coming back to my desk when I was done to finish up the day. And guess what? I didn't get to finish everything I wanted to because, dang it, I had to put on my face. But that's okay, because I also know that whatever is meant to come up today comes up today. I also know that. And I've also been able then to look at my commitment to living where I live. Just because I may buy a house in the future doesn't mean that I can't commit and be totally, fully present in this moment, in this house, in this life, in my business. I even discovered that I was only half-heartedly sometimes committed to my business. And that's scary. That's a scary thought. But I don't have to be a victim of that thought even, or of that realization, because now I have the ability to respond to what is going on, right? So commitment is a decision that you've made. If you find it's the incorrect decision, then you have to take steps to correct that. If you find that it was that you're only half-heartedly in the commitment and you feel like you need to see it through, then commit. It literally changes the energy. It changes the energy. Good morning, Ginger. It's good to see you out there. Cindy, good morning to you. She says, geez, I love all those scents and fall. Yes, I know a good chunk of the country isn't in that kind of temperatures or energy yet. And I know it's coming. It's coming for you all. Let's see what else is going on. LOL, Gail. Tina, is it okay to commit to the what and hold the how lightly? Oh, absolutely. And then Tina says, commit to living on the island, the what, in whatever house presents itself. Right. So many times in the midst of doing a reading for people, especially in human design, we talk, specifically this comes up around money, but it can apply to any part of your life, in that your job as a being is to decide the what. Is that the what? What am I going to commit my time, my energy, my resources, my money, my life to? My attention. What am I going to do? You're the what. But then we kind of, with our minds, start running out of the what and into the how. How is it going to happen? The natural thing that your mind does is goes from the what to the how. So when last summer, this was so funny because last summer I received the gift of a process called, what was it called? Something, the Isles of Desire. And in the process, you create a picture of the now. Well, first you create a picture of what you want, what you desire. And I couldn't get that. I had the worst time getting to that. Now, in casual conversation with someone, I may say, oh yeah, I want that. I want that. I want to go there. I want to do this. But when somebody really wants me to sit down and think about what it is I really want, what do I desire, I freak out. And I think a lot of us do that. I think a lot of people can't quite get to what they want, but you have to get the clarity on what you want. So eventually she opens me up. She says, what do you want in your relationships? What do you want? How do you, how much money do you want to be making? What trips do you want to take? What blah, blah, blah. She just took me through the process. And every time she asked me that way, I knew what I wanted. So I get this picture or this island of what I desire. And then she says, okay, now let's do what it looks like in this moment. Well, that was damn uncomfortable, right? Because in this moment, I wasn't making the money I wanted to make. I wasn't taking the trips I wanted to take. I hadn't achieved the things that I wanted to achieve. And I was more discomfited, I think, by the reality of the now than I was about the future. And then the process was to build the bridge between the now and the future. And you did that by being in this present moment and really getting clarity around what you want. And then stepping out of the how is that going to happen? Because the how is the game of the universe, not yours. And that's really hard for the mind to handle. That's really hard for the mind to handle. So let's see. Tina says she had that moment, wrote it down during a workshop, read it, and then you left me hanging there. I don't know what happened. What happened then? The then was, I bet your mind got into, how is that going to happen? When's that going to happen? Can you prove that's really going to happen? When is that going to happen? And burst into tears. Oh, yeah. Burst into tears. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened there? Because it was your dream and you were so happy to have connected to the dream, or you burst into tears because you felt like you would never be able to get it. Tell us about that, because, that's a juicy unpacking right there too, because once we connect to our dream, let's say you have a dream to own your own resort. I'm just making stuff up here. Let's just say, you have this idea of a resort and, maybe you want it to be like a place for spiritual retreats where people come and they restore both their health, mentally, physically, emotionally, and, That's your dream. Well, almost, once you can connect to that dream and you can start drawing the picture of what it looks like. And then the next step I always take people through is, what does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? Who's there with you? Get all the senses involved. And then I usually will tell somebody at that point, once you get that connected, is to make it bigger, just to keep making it bigger and bigger until, you can't make it any bigger. And then release it out there to the universe, or just release it. The reason that is such an important process is because then it becomes electromagnetically attractive. But the next steps are equally as important, because the next step sees us usually trying to figure out when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. And that's why that process is so important, because every time your mind wants to go over there to the part that's the universe's job, you bring it back to what the dream was, to what the vision was that you were creating this resort. And this is what it sounded like. This is what it smelled like. This is who comes here. This is the experiences we have. You keep coming back to the dream, you stay out of the how. If you can stay out of the how, you are staying in alignment with what you want. And even though the outer world may keep showing you that it isn't there yet, it isn't your job to question what's going on out there. It's your question to keep that dream out there. Like, this is really happening, right? This is really going to happen. I'm connected fully with this dream, and it is going to happen. Because otherwise you're not committed to the dream. You're only half-heartedly committed. So you've withdrawn a part of your energy away from the dream. If you withdraw your energy from the dream, now the universe has this mixed message about what is it she really wants? What is it she's really desiring? What is she really creating? So then a split happens, right? A split happens. So you have that dream, and you put as much detail as you can into that dream. But then I always tell people to say this or something better, because maybe there's a detail I forgot in my initial dreaming of it that would be so important. So this or something better. And then go on and live your life, responding to what shows up in your outer world if you're a generator type, waiting for invitations if you are a projector type, and if you're a manifester, following your creative genius. And if you're a reflector, looking outward to other people to show you what it is that you really are meant to be doing. Please tell me all that helps. Makes sense. Let's see. Tina, yes, I'm trying very hard to stay focused on the what, not the how. The how is how. Wait, the how is how I'll get paid to do the work that I love. I was releasing, I think. Oh, so she was the one that said that. Then she burst into tears. So what she thinks is she was releasing all the crud that was layered on me, holding me back. She wrote, I want to say I love what I do. The tears came from realizing how simple this was and how desperately I craved it. That's awesome. That's fantastic. It's beautiful. Right. And, often too, and this has happened to me, where I might have this big dream, and then my mind comes in and says, yeah, but you're 57 years old. You're never going to be able to make that happen in time. In time for what? In time for what? I don't know. I don't know what that's about. I mean, I sometimes just feel that, I guess, that biological time clock clicking in, but that's just the mind. Again, just the mind. And I have the choice in that moment to be the victim of my age and the feeling that I don't have enough time to get it done before I'm old, or whatever that, is about. Or I can choose to stay in the dream and to realize that the universe can bring that to me at any moment, that all I need to do is stay open to it and not half-heartedly commit to it. I'm either all in with the dream. This is my dream. Tina, that is your dream. So either you put the full backing of your body, soul, emotion, and spirit into it, or you don't. And then what you see in the outer world is just the half-hearted universal response to what it is you want. It seems so logical. It's like a no-brainer. And then I go back and I look over the, course of my own life where there are things that I really wanted to do, that I feel like I'm committed to wanting to do, but then my actions don't follow that commitment. Right? Instead, I succumb to what I see in the outer world as, or what I perceive as, things aren't happening the way that I thought they should happen, or when I thought they should happen, or how I thought they should happen. And then I give up on the dream. I give up on the goal. So we have, this is really interesting because it brings the practical goal setting, aspirations. What do I desire in the grand trine in Earth? And it also brings the more spiritual, creative energies of Pisces, the Pisces full moon. Do I succumb to victimization or do I reach for freedom? Which is my choice, right? Anything else? Good morning, Suzanne. Good to see you out there. You are helping all of us achieve our dreams. I hope so, because I want my dreams to be realized, right? And I'm going to be self-centered about getting my dreams realized, but if my dream realization helps you, so much the better. And that's the other realization, that just because I have a dream, just because I have a big desire, isn't taking away from anyone else. I'm not taking away from others to get what I want. If I do that, if I think about it in those terms, then what I'm saying is that the universe is a small place, that it's limited, that it's not prosperous, that when I get something that I really want, someone else suffers. And that is so not true. I resonate a little bit with that, right? Because I want everybody to have everything that they want. And then there's that little bit of guilt, like survivor's guilt. There's often that, that I survived. Why? What is so special about me that I survived? What is so special about me that all my dreams come true and those people over there are homeless living on the streets? But you have to understand that the universe is a prosperous place. Gate 55, where the full moon is sitting, where the moon itself is sitting, is and the earth is grounding in the realization that prosperity and abundance comes through our connection to spirit, and it's intrinsic. We deserve it because we're human beings, not because we are taking it away from someone else. We don't know why people have chosen the path of homelessness or suffering. We don't know. And it's our duty, of course, to do as much as we can for our fellow human beings, but it's not our job to heal them, because it's our job to empower them to heal themselves. And we can do that in large part by working our own stuff, right? Every time that we heal something within ourselves, we open up the world for that kind of same healing, because we are intuitively connected, right? We are all interconnected in this collective. When one person suffers, we all suffer in some ways. We can all tap into that. When we heal, we open the pathway to healing for everybody. Asa, as a manifester, it helps to know that this information. Thank you, Janet, because I've been spinning my wheels for so long. God, my manifestors, bless your hearts out there. Right? Manifestors often they're the most number of people I get for readings on their human design are projectors first and then generators. And sometimes manifesting generators. The least likely to come to me for help are the manifestors. And yet they're often the ones that need the help the most, because the message of the just do it and only becoming the beginning of something, the starter in something, with my manifestors, I use the metaphor of the cue ball, right? The breaking ball, I guess they call it in pool. That's the manifester, right? They break the game wide open, and then they turn it over to the manifesting generators and projectors to handle. That's their job. But the world sometimes then looks at them and says, oh, you're just such a flake. You start all these projects and you never finish them. Duh. That's what they're here to do. Start things and not finish them. It isn't their job to finish them, and they use their energy up very quickly when they try to finish the things they started. Right? Tina's saying she's married to a reflector, and I'm a generator, so I'm learning about what it means to be a mirror. Yeah. Yeah. The reflectors, less than 1% of the population out there are reflectors. But we all want reflectors in our lives. Why? Because they reflect back to us our own stuff, our own relative health. When a reflector is healthy and joyful, then you know that you're putting out that kind of energy. When a reflector is sick or worried or depressed or disappointed, then there's something that you're putting out that is a part of that expression from them. It's very key. I mean, I think you're quite lucky to have a reflector in your life. And just to be clear, a reflector is someone who has all of their energy centers white. There's no color in the centers. They only have hanging gates, in other words, in their chart. All the centers white and only hanging gates. They're moon driven because every contact the moon makes with another planet opens them up in some way to reflecting something new, right? So if he's got all white centers, he has only the capability of absorbing the energy from around him, amplifying it, and rebroadcasting it. His health is a picture of your health. His getting what he desires is a picture of you getting what you desire. It's amazing. It's really amazing to have that kind of a person in your life, in your group, right? Someday, maybe we can form groups around having a nice balance of all the types in the group, where we attract a reflector to our groups, so that we have someone that can really be the sounder that can tell us. When I went to college, I was at first studying environmental science. I mean, my thought was I would become an environmental scientist. Then I switched to biology chemistry because I thought, no, you're a better teacher. So I was heavily in the science field. And frogs are called indicator species. And frogs are indicator species because they live close to the water-land interface. And so their health, their relative health, tells us how healthy our environment is. If the water isn't clean and pure, or is poisonous, or if the land is, full of toxins, then the frog population dies, or is ill, or isn't fruitful and multiplies. And when the environment the frog finds themselves in is very healthy, then you have a healthy population of frogs, and then we hear that beautiful frog sound at night around our waterways. Well, that's what reflectors kind of are. They're an indicator species for us as human beings. The relative health of our reflectors tells us the relative health of our organizations, of our countries, of our planet. When our reflectors are doing well, then we're doing well. When our reflectors aren't, we're not. So it's a pretty powerful manifestation to have a reflector in your life, much less as a spouse that close to you. So pretty cool. All right, now everybody wants to be a reflector, right? Enjoy what you are. Okay, so now let's get back to where I was. So the full moon for us is about releasing the victim energy and allowing blessed freedom. Freedom is what the gift and the siddhi is of this full moon. We have the earth trine that helps us to ground in our truth, to really fully commit to those things that we want to commit to, that we want in our life. And that is happening Sunday morning, 4:56 a.m. at 3 degrees of Pisces. 7:56 East Coast. All right. I think that's all for that. So let's go back to something else I wanted to talk about. The Grand Trine in Earth, very practical, right? Practical and earthy. It points out to us the constraints of the physical world, right? No matter how magical things are, we do live on the physical planet in a physical plane. That means we do have to take care of the physical, right? The material aspects of our lives. We got to, load the dishwasher. We got to wash the clothes. We got to, vacuum, dust. We got to get ourselves dressed. We have to put on our makeup. We have to feed ourselves, use the restroom. We have to do all the earthly things because of where we are. And that means that we also have to apply those same earthly tasks to whatever it is that we do. If you want a business, you can't just sit back and do nothing. Your customers aren't going to like that. If I didn't answer emails, if I didn't answer people's questions, what kind of an astrologer would I be? What kind of business would I have? Right? So we all have to understand the material aspects of this particular configuration, that you are feet first on a physical plane and honoring that within yourself. And then your genius can become expressed in the physical world, right? When you're planted here and you're doing what shows up in your world, the genius that you are then comes out to play. With the sun right now, the sun is in Virgo, Uranus is in Taurus, Saturn is in Capricorn. So our outer world right now is sort of lit up by those earth-shaking events, wreaking karmic havoc or reaping karmic rewards. Remember, Saturn in our human design and in astrology is the great teacher, and sort of is the process through which we find out that somehow karmically we have not done the correct things and we need to balance things, or we reap the rewards because we find that we have been doing the right things. So it can be karmic reward, or is it karmic comeuppance? I don't know, right? The outer world is looking pretty interesting that way for us. So the full moon also is featuring a yod, the finger of God, pointing us in a specific direction. Mercury is at the point of that yod with Neptune and Pluto holding the base. And when first thought that I thought when I saw the yod is secrets coming up. Right? Secrets, the things that we haven't wanted to look at, our outer world already, people coming forward, saying things, who knows what the truth is. That's not what I'm talking about, but the dirty, icky laundry's coming up from the underworld, Pluto, from Neptune, things that we've been deceived by or not seen clearly at the base of the yod, and pointing it over to Mercury, where we hear it, where we intuit it, where we now have to process it, and communication is also involved here. Secrets rising up. Now, in the outer world, we see that right now with Trump and the whole, stuff going on there. But, we also see individually with me as I'm putting on my mascara and this awareness comes out, right? So that's the yod forcing us, almost squeezing us into clearing out deception and the unclarity and empowering ourselves to go through the darkness and come out here and communicate it, bringing it up. Once you bring it up, once you're aware, then you can be responsible. We talked about that yesterday, responsible, right? So interesting stuff, right? Right. Okay. So now, I knew this was going to happen. So I've been contemplating the Gene Keys. I'm working to be a Gene Keys ambassador. And I'm doing that because I really love the Gene Keys. I love the depth it takes us to. I love the contemplative process. And I love being able to share that kind of depth with all of you. But I'm also finding that there's this eye of the needle feeling, right? Every morning when I'm up here and I'm like, oh my God, I have so much I want to say and so little time to really get it across. So I'm thinking that I'm going to begin a series after we finish the human design centers. I'm going to begin a series on the gene keys themselves, because there's really juicy ways we can look at the gene keys. For one thing, right up the middle of your holographic or hologenetic profile is the sword of individuality. That is Richard Rudd's words, not mine. But it makes perfect sense. This sort of piece that rolls right up from the root chakra on up through the crown, or ideally from the crown down through the chakra as well, through the root chakra as well. Sort of this whole identity of individuality. Who are we? You might have even seen, when I've shown my holographic. Let me see if I can show it to you. I may even actually take it out because my whole book, I'm always afraid everything I have in the book is going to fall out. Oh, that wasn't helpful. There we go. So here's your holographic profile, if you guys have gotten it. So you guys have one that looks very similar. So the sword of individuation, sword of individuality, goes right up from here and up to here. And it also has the hilt right across. Notice that it includes the IQ, EQ, and the SQ, the 3 developmental phases of your life. Remember the IQ or the SQ from birth to age 7, the EQ from 7 to 14, and then the IQ from 14 to 21. So your whole sword of individuation moves you right up through the center. And it takes you from the bottom here, which is your life, your purpose, and up to your life work, right? The beginning point is your purpose, and the end point, your life work. And what's holding the hilt, the handle, is going to be your IQ, SQ, and EQ. It's huge. It's huge. So I really want to do that with you all. And a part of that is learning the gene keys. The part of that is you all getting your own profile, which I think I've put on the page, Living Astrology Facebook page twice. I will probably at some point even play with my website and put that up on my website. I just don't have enough time. That's just the problem, right? Sometimes there's more in a day than what I have time in the day to do. I guess that's just the way it goes. Because I want to be able to teach people from the gene keys. And part of that is these mornings where we talk about, yes, it'll be a separate series, Tina. And a separate series, most likely via donation, which means if you can afford it, you pay for something. If you can't, you don't, right? I'm not going to know the difference. So I will process that and see how that looks and feels for me. And but it's something I really desire. And I feel like in the morning here, I'm very committed to it. But I feel like we can do more because I'm kind of pushing very quickly through the material. And literally these gene keys aren't that easily pushed through. But anyway, so today I wanted to talk about the gift of intuition. And I'm not going to get through all of this because I didn't even get to prepare for the clarity part, right? That I wanted to take you through. And that was the highest expression. So when I think about intuition, I actually think about, I think it's a more spiritual process, right? I've always thought of it as a more spiritual process. But intuition is literally your body's system for interacting harmoniously with the outer world. So intuition is really the interface between your body and the physical. Has nothing to do with the spiritual. Has nothing to do with the soul, really. It's very much instinctual. It's very much rooted in the physical world. I'm blown away by this. Because your intuition is akin to your instinct, and instinct arose in us in the very early days of our being on the planet, right? Our ancestors were very body-centered, and their body told them when the weather was going to change, when danger was in the air. And it wasn't just the body in terms of, that we think of, our hands, our feet, and our legs, but our senses. Sight, smell, taste, touch, and intuition was another one of the senses, the sixth sense, that we seem to think is some kind of nebulous out here thing. but it's a part and parcel of every human being. It's not something that psychics get that you don't. It's very much a part of who you are. And here's what has happened is that during, and this is not a bad thing, it's just what's happened, is that over the course of time, as the mind became much stronger, right? It begins to interact with the field of energy that you are gestating into. So the prenatal programming that you receive, those 9 months of pregnancy within your mother, are interfering with the clear operation of your intuition. And that might mean that the fears that your mother experienced, the outer world expression of events in her life were energetically being absorbed by you as the fetus. And all of that becomes interference waves to your clear connection to your instinct and your intuition, likely because your mother wasn't in tune with her own, right? Or your father wasn't in tune with his. And it's not just your mom or your dad, it was the field of energy that was on the planet at the time that you were in the gestational phase. And remember, the spleen is not only the center for intuition, but also health. So here we also can see that illnesses, physical illnesses and ailments are imprinted by that gestation cycle. And they can be healed easily through raising the frequency of your DNA. And I know that's mind-blowing to a lot of you. But literally, I've watched people heal themselves from cancer. Not by doing anything, just by listening to their inner world and acting from that inner world, the information they're receiving about diet, environment, stressors, etc. And because they chose to work the shadow, it's like, when your room is dark at night, I have art right next to my bed there. Well, my light is on, but right next to my bed, I have a flashlight. And that's because I don't want to stumble in the middle of the night if I get up, to use the bathroom. But I was thinking about the flashlight and how when we turn on the flashlight, what does it do? It illuminates the shadows. It illuminates the darkness. So the more light that we bring in, the more the shadows are cast away. The more light you bring through your DNA, the more likely you are able to live a healthy, well-adjusted, absolutely wonderful, brilliant life. Your genius can come into shine. And it all begins by you being willing to shine the light into those shadows. I love it. Shine the light into those shadows. You got to dare to go there. And doing this work that we do, when I share my stuff, when you share your stuff, when we look into those dark places, we're strengthening our intuition. We're strengthening our guidance system. And it's not even really conscious that that's happening, but that's what's happening. So we're clearing out the darkness so that we can hear the signals coming from our body in a more clear way. So that if you're a generator, you can respond. If you are a projector, you know when the right invitation comes. When you're a manifester, you know what right creative energy to use. And if you're a reflector, you can reflect all of that back to the people around you. You can reflect the beauty of shining that light in those dark places. And ultimately, what we see is our intuition is distinctly feminine. It listens and receives. And the reality of that is that then the mind begins to use the energy, the information, and causes the body then to act. But what's happened to us is that the mind, which is distinctly masculine, it is the energy of exploring and conquering. Now, we need both on the planet, right? I'm not saying that the masculine has done things all wrong or that the feminine, is weak. No, I'm saying that intuition is feminine, is receptive, but you have to clear the channel in order to receive that. The mind, instead of being at the behest of the intuition, has become the overriding principle. The masculine overrode the feminine. It shadowed the feminine. And likely out of fear of what was out there. Yin and yang. Yep. Yin and yang. So I want everybody to think about the import of this idea of so we're seeing your outer world is ripe right now with the rise of the divine feminine. And we may not all like the way it's happening, calling men out that, abused us or etc. I mean, we may not like the ugliness of what it is bringing to the surface right now, but it's doing its job, right? We're bringing the energy of the feminine up. We're receiving and listening, and we are relegating the mind and the masculine to its proper position. It is the power that was inherent in that feminine. It is the power inherent in the quietness, the receptivity of the feminine that the male energy, the masculine energy, not male, but masculine energy, saw fear. It's strength, right? Strength is it. But the strength is really not it. If the strength is the mind, then the mind has been overriding the intuition, and it's time for us to bring that back into the right balance. The intuition causes the mind to create the pathway for the body to respond, not the mind seeing through a veil of fear, masks the intuition, and all of our actions then are taken out of context and put out there in a fearful way. It's just mind-blowing. And there's so much more. If you all have the Gene Keys book, read The Gift of Intuition, and maybe even go on into the Siddhi and look at clarity. We'll probably look at clarity on Monday before we transition over to the next one. Monday is the 27th. Hallelujah. Mars turning direct. On the 27th, we'll be dealing with we're still dealing with 57. Perfect. So see, timing is perfect. I thought I was going to run out of time and I didn't. So Monday, we can deal with the highest expression of the gate 57 that Venus is bringing us to write our values. And that'll be the gift, or the highest expression is clarity. Now, I drew a card for us this morning, and the question was, what is the full moon bringing to us collectively? What collectively can we take away from this full moon? And interestingly enough, I drew yang, and I drew it upside down. First time we've seen an upside down card in a while. The other day we had it sideways, and I was like, okay, what does that mean? So we did both, but this one distinctly puts us in protection. So let's see what that is. By the way, it's card number 1, right? So, which is validating to me in terms of human design, because gate 1 in your human design, which is on the identity center, is the most yang gate of all of human design. So here we have yang, and these are the Wisdom of the Oracle cards by Colette Baron Reed. Okay. So first of all, the meaning of the card, the essential meaning of yang is the masculine principle of movement and creative activity, the power to make things happen, taking action. So the protection message is, be mindful of the tendency toward impulsive action or overconfidence and aggressive behavior. Think before you act, lest you find yourself in a situation that will lead to uncomfortable consequences. Be sure you really want what you're chasing after, because you might be sorry when you get it. The appearance of this card isn't cause for fear, for life is all about learning lessons. Practice temperance, diplomacy, and thoughtful consideration before making a move. Let me highlight that sentence. Be sure you really want what you're chasing after, because you might be sorry when you get it. That's a part I didn't even really think about when we were talking about commitment, right? Make sure you're committed to the right things. And when you realize if you've made the mistake, don't keep compounding the mistake by chasing what it is that you don't want. Let it go. So, Yang, the card for today, the card for the full moon. And that's appropriate as well because Mars is not yet direct at that point in time. So taking action impetuously is not going to be favored, right? There's still that hesitation because Mars is still in that backwards phase, more of the inner work being done. All right, so let's see. Suzanne, I needed that card about 3 hours ago. Do you want to share? Let's see. Tina says, mind-blowing, pun intended, love it. Suzanne, is the battle and peace is coming. Yeah, exactly. Yin and yang. Asa, beautiful. No wonder I always want to protest stuff. Diane, she posts the recording on her page. You can watch at your convenience. Yeah, it automatically posts to my page. What I do when we're done is I go back to Facebook and I answer comments and things like that while I'm downloading the video from Facebook to my desktop. And then I load that back up to YouTube. But the last couple of days, I've been having some real issues trying to get that done. So if you've gone to my website or you're expecting to see it on YouTube, I haven't been able to do it because for whatever reason, the process gets interrupted and I haven't figured out yet what that's all about. And I have a feeling we've gone through another Windows update and there's some settings, who knows? I figured it'll resolve itself at some point. And anyway, so it is always here on the Living Astrology Facebook page, though. It's lovely that Facebook automatically archives that for me. So let's see. Suzanne says, I sent a message to my son this morning, and after hearing that, I probably should have reworded it. Because she's a Cancer, she jumps in. But I also know that because you're a Cancer, you may have also tempered that message as much as you possibly could. And you know what? The rightness of it is the rightness of it. You'll just have to deal with it when it comes back, right? Tina says, can you post a link to the Gene Keys book hold on. Here we go. Can you post a link to the Gene Keys book you reference? Absolutely, I can. You can even, I'll post that link. There's, when I post links, sometimes you have to read through the body because Facebook has this wonderful thing. If you put a link on there, it suddenly takes, and puts up the artwork from that website or from that, page. But then if you have subsequent links, it doesn't do that. In fact, it doesn't even look like they're links. So you have to copy and paste. So either I will have to do it in a series or because they're two different places that you get that information. So I will post those links for everybody. So look for them when we're done. Thank you, Tina, for that. And Asa says, if gate 57 is defined, should this time mean more? That's a really great question because no, it doesn't. It's not that it means more. It's already emphasized in your chart if you have it defined, and that means you deal with it on a consistent basis. But for those of us like me, I don't have gate 57 defined. But for this week, now Venus sitting there, it is defined in my chart. And remember yesterday I showed you the just now chart? Oops. Is that it? Yeah. This is still enacted today. Right? So this is what the energy would look like. If you were an individual being born right now, this is what your chart would look like, or somewhat, right? Because the moon's moved since yesterday when I drew the chart. So for those of you who do not have a gate 57 defined, nor gate 10, now you suddenly have this whole channel here defined in your chart. If you had an open spleen, you suddenly have a defined spleen. If you have an open identity center, you have a defined identity center. And this is called conditioning, right? So for this week, you're tempted to use this energy in the way that it comes up for you. But it isn't your natural way of dealing with the world. So it's kind of fun to put all this focus on intuition. This gate, by the way, is the gate of self-love. And we're talking about now, how do I right my ship, right? How do I put myself back in alignment with my intuition? So for people who have gate 57, your intuition is always there. It's right there. Actually, for all of you humans, of which we are all a part, it is right there. If it's defined, you have a distinctive way of getting to that, or of using it, or of ignoring it. If you have it open, then you're maybe not as clear about when is my intuition speaking to me and when isn't it. So those of us who had it open and who have access to it now this is really up and in your face, and you may be looking back and going, yeah, I should have been listening to that intuition. And for those of you who have it defined, nothing's really changed, except maybe that connection to the identity center at gate 10. So it all depends on your human design chart and how you're designed. And then it's useful to go back and say, okay, if I have an open spleen or an open identity center or both, they are now defined for the short term. So I have access to an identity. I have access to the spleen. Fears may be enacted in my template now that hadn't been before. So I hope that clears that up and gives you an idea of why it's so important to know your human design. I keep mine. I have notebooks with my whole family's charts in it, right? Because anytime something comes up with them, what am I doing? I'm looking at my chart. I'm looking at it. I'm going, okay, right now I'm looking at my chart because I know XYZ is at whatever gate. And I'm like, oh dear. So 59, I don't have gate 59. That's defined for me now. Gate 55, I already have. So I'm already in resonance with that. Gate 7, not in my sphere. So I have to deal with that now. 57 again, I'm going to have to deal with that. And on and on. That's what I do. That's what I do with this book. And this book can be very confusing. Do I recommend that you all go out and buy this book? No, because I think it's very confusing. But if you at least know your human design, then you can tell when you're out of alignment with who you naturally are. And often it's because of a person in your life whose energy you're, borrowing or tapping into, or a planet has transited through that particular gate and defined a center for you. We'll talk more about that on Thursday when we do the workshop on the webinar on centers. That information is going out to you all today. So you'll have to register for the webinar. It is free. You do not have to pay for that. But you must still register, right? So that I know how many people will be there and so that you can get the link to join into the webinar. All right. I think that is all I have for today. Any other questions? Can I just say I love these longer shows? You can indeed. Yeah, I'm mindful of time because then, I personally, in my own human design, have issues around boundaries, all kinds of boundaries. I reject boundaries. I will just keep on going beyond the boundary. Even though I've drawn my own boundary, I will go past it and beyond it. So those are some of my lessons about boundaries. So this time right now, this grand trine in Earth makes me very mindful of boundaries, right? And what am I committing to? And how committed am I to what I'm doing, right? So anyway, it's just kind of fun to know yourself enough to be able to see when things are happening and what or how it is that you can respond to things and be responsible and not just be the victim of, something moving over your gate 57 and creating a connection to gate 10 that now creates this possibility of verbal abuse and what have you. I mean, and that's something I don't want to get into right now, but that's always a possibility. So watch your words, watch how you speak to one another, watch how you speak to yourself. Don't look in the mirror and go, oh, you are so gross looking, or, why beat yourself up for things you've done, for sending an email to your son that maybe you worded not as eloquently as possible. Not beating yourself up. Don't be vulnerable to that. All right. I can't believe it's Friday. I wish you all a wonderful weekend. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Go out and experience the full moon if you can at that 7:56 in the East Coast, 4:56. I'm not sure I'm going to get up and do that, but I might. In the meantime, I love you all. Mwah. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful evening, day, weekend, etc. Bye.